Hey guys, Unfair here. Welcome back to another episode of Cutting Room Floor.
So this is pretty funny. You guys have probably noticed already, or will notice. There's paint buckets lying around the entire game, and they're all kind of empty,
all over the place.
all
They're
over
all
the place.
gold.
Yeah, and they're all empty yellow or gold paint, if you want. And the joke behind that is because there's so much yellow, gold, and orange in the game.
Black and gold.
With the black and gold, obviously the 50% of the black and gold, is the joke is that it's actually people in the world who actually, took up, paint buckets of yellow paints and painted the world that way. So it just became a little inside joke, and we started putting these buckets all over the place.
So now you know how the black and gold was made in the
Yeah,
first
it is not from us. It is from very, very advanced AI that started painting the game to their liking. Really.
So as you continue playing the game, keep an eye out. You'll
Keep an
see
eye
how
out.
many
They're all,
there are.
all
Yeah.
over the place.
Yeah.
So this is a manufacturing plant. It's the first mission that Adam Johnson goes through after getting fully augmented.
And once he's RoboCop.
When he's RoboCop, now he's ready to use his new tools. The thing is that the first final version of the map that we got, actually to just put people in context, it was supposed to be those terrorists taking over this facility.
The Purity First guys.
Purity First guys trying to find evidences that Sarif Industries was going through unethical work and stuff.
Imagine it's like it's as if Greenpeace takes over like
Exactly.
a whaling ship or something like that.
Yeah.
Or
But the first kind of semi-final version of the map, we started it and you wouldn't see anything. Everything was pretty.
Yeah.
Everything was super clean. Nothing going on.
And not only that, it was clean in terms of like you didn't get the feeling that there was no siege, but also the indications that it was besieged by
Right.
Purity First
There's no
also
signs
was
of a
not there.
break-in.
There was
Yeah.
nothing.
There
There
was
was nothing at all.
And it was just the story telling you this is happening. But as you were walking in the game, you didn't feel it. So we had to go through
So
several
we had to go in
iterations.
and point out that we need things here, guys, like graffiti and
Graffitis
break-in
and-
signs and all that.
And the banners, and I know that you've always thought that the banners look way too like professionally
Yes,
done for
they
an
look like-
organization
yes.
like
for
Purity
a
First.
terrorist organization, how they got the money for silk screening
Silk
of
screening.
huge banners was always curious.
Well,
to me.
I've done silk screening at home myself, so I guess you would need a really big silk screen to make those banners, though. But yeah, no, it's true. It's true.
Yeah, this map actually it symbolizes the revival of Detroit in some way. In some ways, when we look back at the Detroit in the 20th century, it was one of the big cities for the car industry and everything. And in this manufacturing plant, actually, it's an old car factory that has been repurposed for Sarif Industries' needs and stuff. And for us, it was kind of using this kind of metaphor to say that reusing the old power of America of the 20th century and put it in the 21st century, but into the new field of technology that makes the city strong again. And as we were brainstorming for the different cities in the game, like Detroit, and we were wondering like why Detroit and why we would go.
I was
there.
one of
And
those. I was
exactly,
like, why?
yeah.
Why the hell would we go to Detroit? But then it ended up making a lot of sense.
It made a lot of sense because when you think about it in the history of America, it was like the Ford basically revolutionized the way that cars are made.
Probably
in
even
Detroit,
part of the
and by
economy
introducing
itself,
the new
even.
factories and the new technologies
Yeah.
and stuff. So why not, when the industry fades, would someone else with a new technology come over and take it over
Yeah.
and take over those old plants and basically recycle?
Yeah, we're actually saying that Sarif did it on purpose,
Yes.
right? That he chose to refurbish. We say, right? Refurbish these factories as a symbolic move, right? It was purposeful on his part. I think it was a really good idea.
And last week I was we're in November as we were recording it. Last week I was reading in the
November
newspaper.
2012. Yeah.
Yes, a newspaper story about Detroit that was being revived.
Revitalized?
Yeah, revitalized through different new companies, and the downtown it's becoming more and more interesting. It has nothing to do with biotech corporations,
But
though,
it's still the
it's
same
coming back.
idea.
Yeah, exactly. So here we're in front of the first conspiracy radio that is spread out through the entire game. And I can't remember how the idea came about, and Steve is going to talk about it. But me, I just remember Steve coming to me really excited about this idea and really wanted to push it in the game.
Yeah, well, when I get something in my hat, I'm usually pretty passionate about it. We were doing weekly reviews in one of our review rooms, and we were playing it. And what was really starting to bother me was that we needed to be pushing the conspiracy side of the game. It was very important. And at that time, we were using a lot of the NPCs and the city hubs that you would talk to, and it always felt kind of strange and a bit awkward to me that you would go up to a random person on the street and hit, the talk button, and you would get some kind of line like, isn't it strange that Tai Young Medical seems to be shipping supplies to Panchaea? And you're like, who says that on a random street when you go up and talk to somebody?
Yes, it was very difficult.
And it was very tough for the writers as well, because, you're trying to make it sound natural, but yet... So anyway, I had this idea, and I mean, it's not an original idea, it's been done in other games, but we tried to put our own spin on it. We said, why don't we create a radio DJ his sole purpose in the game will be to push the conspiracy. And my inspiration was actually from the movie Eight-Legged Freaks, where they have the conspiracy DJ who lives in his little camper trailer out in the middle of nowhere. And I thought, this is awesome, because it'll cost us a radio for an object that can just be dumped anywhere in the map, and then we just go in the studio and record these long monologues, which the writers did have to write, but they did an amazing job on the writing. They studied Alex Jones and all kinds of conspiracy stuff, and I have to give Mary the credit for, I remember when we were talking about who we were going to cast, and she looks at me and she goes, well, what about Harry Sanjovsky, who was this amazing actor that we loved him so much and we wanted to try and fit him into the game somewhere, but every time we kind of cast him as a part, just by chance that part would kind of get scaled down or cut, and we would be left with this great actor that we couldn't put anywhere. So she gets the credit for the casting on that one, saying, what about him? And my eyes just lit up, and we didn't even cast, we just said, that's it,
Let's
it's
get
him
in there and do it.
And he
was amazing.
What an amazing job he did.
I think he did most of them in one take.
Yeah, he was he just nailed it. He
and
really
it's Andrew who wrote also the
yes,
text, right?
Andrew, one of our freelance writers, wrote all.
Yeah, who's also doing very well right now is Anakin Slade.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So Anakin Slade, the hip hop artist, worked on this game, and he wrote almost, I think, all the pirate radio DJ stuff.
All the pirate and most of the overheard conversations.
And I was just really happy. Again, it shows, credit to JF's game director skills, that he was open to the idea and he let me build off of it, because I was really happy when it went in.
Yeah, but I had the easy job. I just had to say yes.
Yeah, but it was good too, because after that, Mary's team could actually write lines for the city people that were more in line of what people would say, and we could actually dump all this conspiracy side onto the one DJ and let him push that whole thing. So it really worked out well in the end.
He's gonna get us out of this. Let him.
So here we're entering deeper into the manufacturing plant, and people need to know that it's probably one of the oldest map that we did, and before having final AI, before really fully understanding the sectorization of the map areas, to really take advantage of the systems we had instead of showing off the limits of the systems we had. And since we had tons to do and many maps, we couldn't really revisit this map the way we would have loved to. And this is why it's probably one of the maps that showcase the limitations of our AIs the most. That's why you see in this map like some AIs that are going to a door frame and they stop there, they don't cross over to try to get you and everything. It's because the sectorization back in the day has been done and the map has been built with an AI that was not fully implemented, but when everything came together, we were like, oh, it shows the limit of the systems. We tried to hide it as much as possible with the guys like taking cover on the sides of the door, like pretending that they're just waiting there protecting themselves because you're dangerous, but
that's not really,
that's not
because
really
you're
that.
augmented and they're not.
And for
Sometimes it looked like that actually, but it's not what was going on really.
But in other maps that came later, now we had a better understanding of our systems. Therefore, we were able to build maps in such a way that those limitations wouldn't be that apparent. Well, the room full of lockers.
Yes.
It reminds me of
I
the
hate
good
that
80s
room.
and 90s.
Yeah.
I can't get through that room without having to open every single locker that exists in
It's
that
crazy.
room.
Well, me, I'm like you, but not for the same reason. It's actually like I hate it. I don't want to do it, but I still do it because I want to get the goodies that are inside, and I can't never remember which ones they are. But if I knew, I would just go straight to those ones because there's probably almost 100 lockers in that room.
I don't know. I
For
never
real.
count them, but
There's at least 60.
but it feels like it's a slot machine. Huh? You have to
Yes.
put another quarter. You have to put, and you always hope that you're going to
No.
win some.
It feels like a pain in the butt.
But me, every time I go in this room, I'm like, fuck, I have to open them all.
Yes.
But it was
Exactly.
on purpose. It was kind of a joke, and it was kind of an homage to like all of those old school games where we didn't really care or we didn't really think if we were putting the players through something that was too cumbersome or too overwhelming.
Right.
So there's just one room like that in the game. I guess it's all
I
good.
think it's the level designer. I don't remember exactly, but I think one day he just made that room. And when I saw this, I started to laugh, and it was so ridiculous.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like, yes,
Yes,
we
of
have
course
we
it's
have to
going
do
in.
it.
There's just so many. I mean, even in real life, like either I don't know, at a gym or you go to the pool or whatever. I don't think I've ever seen that many lockers in a changing room or whatever. It's just insane. So this is a very interesting room. This is a room that that's very dear to me. It's one of the early stuff that we designed for the game. This goes back to probably fall.
2008. Yeah.
No, this is like fall 2007, I think.
Are you sure? Oh,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, I think so. I mean, it ended up being produced in
Yeah,
2008
yeah,
for
yeah.
the game,
Yeah.
but I think if it's 2008, it's very early, like right after Christmas or something, right? And so we weren't really sure where we're going with the game at that point, or the locations, and all that kind of stuff. But we knew we had to do the tech demo, right? And this is what we did. And this room, obviously, and the concept art, the idea was it was a tech lab. It was a biotech lab. It's Thierry Doison, of his artist name, Baron Thierry, who did it. Superb concept art. And the idea on Deus Ex is that we wanted to make sure that the visual style was very consistent throughout the entire game, right? It was really homogeneous. And a good way to do this is you make sure that the style that's on the concept art is the style that you want in the game, that there's no like dual standard, you know what I mean? And then what the production artists see on the concept art, they need to reproduce it. I wouldn't say as is, but they need to make sure that the style is
It
the same.
needs to stay faithful.
It needs to stay very faithful, And what was interesting is that when that room was first designed, sometimes we'd see, an artist working at his desk, and we'd see what we thought or what we think was a wallpaper of the concept art, on his computer, and then suddenly that wallpaper will start moving,
It was actually
and
the 3D.
it was actually the 3D room. We're like, holy shit, this looks
yeah.
100% like the concept art. Almost it was one of my first time in all of my in my entire career where I really saw this almost 1:1
Yeah.
ratio between concept art.
It was impressive.
It was very impressive.
And actually, it's the first part, the first press tour ever we did with journalists. That's the tech demo we showed.
That's
Yes.
that's the first thing we ever shown to the journalists, and they asked us what the hell is this engine, like, because there was so much of a flavor.
There was a flavor, yeah.
We definitely didn't have the best of engines to do this game. I mean, it's a well-known fact, but because of that style that we put in it, a lot of people were really
Made it
kind of
very attractive.
made
yeah.
it very attractive and special. Anyway, and we ended up. This is one of the few very, very early things that we kept and that we recycled, if you want, in the final game. And this is the room that we have here.
Rolling.
So we're in the hostage room in the manufacturing plant where we have the bomb.
The bomb.
And what is interesting with this one is that there are many ways to defuse the bomb. When you get into the room now, it's booby trapped, so the doors are locking behind you, and now you have to figure it out.
And you have to
So,
hack,
yeah,
supposedly.
you can hack. You can also
find the
find a code for it. But another way to solve it, and a lot of players didn't know that, but you can actually shoot the tank to the left and the tank to the right. And that's it, because there are gas
The toxic
substance.
mix is when they mix together in the base
but
of
if
the
they
bomb.
don't mix, there's no problem.
Yes, and I think there's actually, you can shoot the connector that causes them to mix. And I remember being in Los Angeles for one of the hands-on presentations with journalists the very first time that they got their hands to play on the game themselves. And I remember there may have been like 20, 30 reporters, and afterwards everyone was talking, and one of them said, I don't know if this was supposed to happen, but I just shot the bomb and it stopped. And everyone else was looking at him like, you're kidding. I'm like, well, you win the prize. You found the secret way.
Where's the bomb squad?
Save us!
So now we are entering into the first SAS zone of this map.
The airlocks.
Yeah, the airlocks. Actually, it's something that we had to add later as we were producing the maps to help the streaming.
Yeah, it's. I think also at that point in the game, we weren't mastering our streaming capabilities as well as we were later on in the game. So basically, it's just your common thing that you see in a lot of games. While this door is locked, we're actually loading the entire room that's in the back, and they were big rooms. Those are the huge lab rooms with a lot of like stuff to do and a lot of stuff to interact with. But what's good about them, and this is how they should be done, is they're thematically inserted. It fits. It's you're in a lab, and this thing looks like it's a place that's gonna, how would you say, Mary, decontaminate you? Is that it? Yeah,
it's
decontamination, sterilize you, and so like all the streams and whatnot. So I'm sure for maybe not for everybody, but for certain people, they didn't even realize what was going on. They were just like, oh, cool, I'm having this steam shower, and then the door opens.
Yeah,
you know?
I just remember me fighting it the longer I could. I was resisting it because I hate those things in general, because it's very artificial, and we all know that it's just we have to load the other portion of the map. Yeah. But like you said, it turned out
at least when they're thematically incorporated that way, it works in a good way.
I agree. So now we're facing one of the air vents of the game. Actually, the air vents...
the cleanest air vents in the history of games.
Yeah, the air vents are definitely the cleanest air vents in the history of games. That's true. And also, this was probably one of the biggest challenges...
With the lockers
of the entire game of Deus Ex Human Revolution. Like, you would think it would be like AI or hacking or how to make like a story as complex as the one that Mary pulled off or whatever, but no,
the air vents.
It was the air vents doors.
And they had to be perfect because they're all over the place.
The thing is that when you design something like that, and there's a door that needs to open, and you want to make sure that, and especially the air vents, because we would hide them so much, like put crates in front of them or put all sorts of crap in front of them. The way that they open, you want to make sure that it's not going to obstruct these things or obstruct AI or whatever. But at the same time, wanting it to open in a fairly credible way, So we had them that would kind of slide in a spaceship way, like on the side, which was like, whatever. And eventually what happened is our lead, Philippe Desrosiers, our lead modeler, which is also has studied engineering and drafting, design, all sorts of things like that. So he's really competent with mechanisms and figuring out how things work. And it might seem very simple when you look at it in the game, and it's like, this is what should have been done from the beginning. But it's not always that easy and that obvious. But he ended up thinking about just these hinges that are just kind of pushing the hatch forward and then bringing it upward, and it was that simple.
And that's the final solution. But when you look at how it was made in games before that, like it just opens in a very like kind of like a door, but
Trapdoor
a trap
kinda
door.
way.
Yeah.
But the thing is that we could have done that, but we had physical objects. You have the characters, and you always have to
Cover,
think.
AI.
Exactly, you always have to think about if the player's going to get stuck, if it's going to damage the experience and whatnot. And sometimes trivial things become really important, things that we need.
And I remember when he made that thing, like how happy I was just for a freaking
We
hatch.
were all happy.
We were just like, oh my god, this is insane. It's like we almost like went out for a beer or something, you know.
Here we're close to the turret, which is one of the robotic enemy that we have in the game.
It's the first time we see it in the game as well.
Yeah, I think
we
so.
see one that's broken before in
But
that
that's the
level, but
first
that's the
working
first
one,
real
yeah.
working one, yeah.
And one of the things we always said is we wanted to build a world that it's systemic, where all the systems can interact with each other in a very natural way. And one day, I remember, I was like taking the trash can and throwing it at the turret.
You didn't even
Taking-
know if it would work, I remember.
No,
You
I
weren't
was
sure.
trying,
Yeah.
and some people like you were like, "What are you trying?" I'm just trying to check if
He's
what we.
picking up the
What
trash
we
can,
built.
throwing it on it, pick it up again, throwing it on it.
And
It-
some people next to me, they were like, "Oh, you're losing your time. It's never going to blow."
and the
or
trash
whatever."
can probably does like 0.001 point of damage, you know?
And I
It's like,
continued doing it,
like 30 minutes.
and then boom,
It
it
blew.
exploded.
So now you know you can kill
Yeah.
a gun turret with a trash can.
Here, another cutscene where Jensen's going to interact with a potential enemy, and I remember having discussion with Jesse Sweet, our cinematic director, back in the day, because the constraint I gave him is that I didn't want Jensen in any cutscene with a gun, because we don't know what the player's going to have. And for me, it was really important that the cutscenes were keeping the character that you were building consistent with when we were going into those moments. So for him, it was a real challenge to still have Jensen look badass, and then but not using a gun. And that's why in this one we see with the hacker is that Jensen pulls out his blade from his arm. So it was a way to compensate for the lack of gun. So here in manufacturing plant, we get close to the bridge where we have the police forces that are fighting the Purity First
Storming the plant.
terrorists. They are storming the plant. And I wanted so badly to have this piece of show don't tell where now that the police are pressuring in the facility and everything, but with playtest we saw that most players never really saw what was happening. Like it was too
It was,
below
it
them
was
and
under their feet.
Exactly.
So
So
a lot of ideas during level design itself. We wanted to have windows. We wanted to show how do we showcase this type of event, but this event was only on paper, so it was very hard to actually make sure that every single player was seeing it, and the whole AI versus AI came very late, right, Pat?
Yeah, like the AI programmer will probably have a different story to that, but you needed to have a faction system when you need to turn like enemies or NPC, they were neutral and they have to know who they are neutral to and who they can attack. So by having like Jensen like taking control of a turret and say this turret now attacks the enemy has to know who is now like used to be his friend, the turret was a friend, now it becomes an enemy. So we had
Sounds
that
like
as a
Facebook.
yeah, so we had that system, and that's the beauty with Deus Ex, where we built like systemic features, and like then the AI could fight against each other, even if we didn't put too much love. I think it came like at a cost, like of a low cost, but the production might not be impressive, like we wish, like you wish.
One of the constraints as well is that we didn't want to have the player interact with those guys. We really wanted to have AI versus AI and leave them independent. So just because of that, we had to make sure the player was
In the
enclosed
sky
in a
bridge.
very safe environment. Thus, the infamous corridor with the
With
glass
the glass floor
uh,
that no woman is ever going to want to walk over.
why?
Yeah, so here, as you can see in this office building, there is a sea full of computers. And as you also know, we had to write emails for every single computer that
And more than
existed in
one.
the game. And one of the big challenges we had in doing that was that we never quite knew ahead of time how many computers there would be. There was the level design was coming to us and saying, you know, we need to know how many emails, how many computers you want, and we were saying to level design, well, we need to know how many computers you intend to put in there, and no one would actually make a decision. And we were doing it so late in the process as well that when we actually sat down there to write them, we weren't really sure at that point how many computers there would be. So it was pretty interesting until we finally got our communication straight and were able to say, okay, look, can you give me a few more computers?
So we are about to enter the first social boss fight with Zeke Sanders. And actually, the story here is that early on, we decided that, for some reasons that I can't remember very well, but we decided that you wouldn't be able to use the social augmentation against this guy. And that as we were fleshing out the upgrade system, we were mapping out not mapping out, but establishing the pacing at which rhythm you would get the praxis kits or the praxis points. And that's why at the beginning of the game I'm not fully happy with how many praxis kits that you get as you move forward.
Well, if I remember correctly, this was the third social boss fight that we wrote, and at the time that we wrote it, we didn't even have the concept of praxis kits. You had to go to the limb clinic to get operated on, and so when we did
we were controlling
we
it.
knew that you wouldn't get augmented before that, and you'd have no chance to have the social aug. So I think that's why we decided not to have it initially in this conversation, because we knew you wouldn't have had a chance to get it yet. And later we came in with the idea of the praxis kits, and at that point it became this issue of, oh wait, we have to make sure we don't give you two because you might have it and we don't support it.
And what happened is that, like I was just saying, what happened is that after that, at the beginning of the game, the pacing to get augmentations is too slow. And it's something that we're aware of and we're not happy with it. But because of those decisions and with what you explained, we were forced to keep it this way. So here, one of the interesting cutscenes where actually I remember us debating about the fact that everybody in this world were thin. There was no fat people and everything. And since with our skeleton and etc. for all the NPCs in the world, we knew that we couldn't address that thing, and we said, well, at least there might be an opportunity to put some instances, like in cutscenes, to cover the fact that it's not everybody in the world that is thin, right?
Yeah, and we really wanted Josie to be the manager of this, to be slightly heavier than everyone else in the game.
And it was this argument about it would be tough to animate and stuff like that it's not going to look good. And
that was nonsense.
Yeah, but it was a tough one. But finally, we managed to make her slightly more heavy than other characters.
Yeah, and I remember that there were certain people on the team who really, really were against it, and they were just saying it'll look weird visually, and having a really thin terrorist with this heavy woman just won't work. And I never quite understood the heart of those things, but in the end, it works out really well. And it makes for a really good hostage situation, which is definitely improved.
Yeah, for me, I was loving this. This was one of my favorite scenes because I said, from sound point, there was so much to play with because you got the riot, the terrorist attack that's sort of happening outside, but you got the riot police coming in to handle it. You got cops coming in. You've got a hostage situation. So I mean, the tension level's on 10, which is great. The one thing that was funny when the scene first came to me is we had almost nothing of Josie crying and whimpering, and I thought for a situation like this, the hostage should definitely be like sobbing and whimpering through the whole thing. So we started by adding that, which brought a lot of life to her character during the scene. Like even when there's nothing going on, you can hear her kind of whimpering and sobbing. And I remember, I think we worked a week just getting the timing for the sound. There's a point where a helicopter beam comes right through the room, and I wanted the sound of the helicopter to come with it, to come really close, so it sounded like, they're just, patrolling around and waiting for this guy. That took like almost a week, and again, like JF always says, it's funny how what seems to be the simplest thing can cause so much headaches and be so complicated. Like, you're like, we're just syncing a damn light with a sound, but it took forever. But once all the elements came in, this was one of my favorite scenes in the game because I love the actor who played Zeke. I thought he was so good. And his performance, along with Jensen's performance, all the sound, the outside stimuli, her sobbing, it just brought the whole thing together.
So this particular computer here is one of the important ones in light of the fact that it is the first computer in the game where you can actually find our first Nigerian email scam. We had a lot of fun with the emails, trying to make it feel like it's a real part of the world and like the world we know. And so you can actually find on every map one Nigerian email somewhere in the map. And in the Hengsha map, there's actually a computer that you can find where you find the person who originated the Nigerian email scam, and his computer lists every single computer in the game that has it. So we were actually debating whether we would make it an achievement to find him, but in the end we kind of cut that one off of the list.
Well, so that's the end of the mission in manufacturing plant, and maybe a lot of players didn't know that, but actually you can go back into the plant now that the mission is over. The police officers just took over the plant.
Yes, they won the battle.
Yeah, they won the
bridge.
battle. And if you go back, you can go back until the beginning of the map and meet a lot of police officers along the way. You even have one police officer that is taking picture of the hacker that killed himself in front of you, and you can talk to all of them, and they have their barks and everything.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
It is, and most people don't realize they can do that.
And to me, it was really important because it was like, it's a game where you can go where you want, whenever you want, and we should maintain the logic of the story regardless of what you do. And I remember that what I wanted was giving a lot of headaches to the level designers, but also to the writers as well, because they had to write more about these things. So in a couple of places in the game we didn't do it, and with the storytelling of what was happening, we were kind of sort of justifying that there's no way back. But as much as possible, it was a rule of thumb, like, okay, we're at the end of the map, we need to support going back at the beginning. But this is the one that we did it the best.
And I remember the level designers kept trying to come back to you with, well, can we cut him off at the elevator?
No.
Maybe we can cut him off here.
No.
But what if we stop him here?
No.
But we could put like a barricade from the police.
No.
And that, thanks
was
to
it.
JF, you can go back and
Yeah.
find all those goodies.
Again, like, is it important or not? For me, was more the attention to the detail and trying to keep the credibility of the place and stuff. So.